So we're going to start with what colors we will be using today. And as I promised, I would keep it simple. So I have the basic colors we need to mix all the other colors from. The first one being white, and mine is a titanium white. These are oil paints, but you can use acrylics or even watercolors or any other type of paint if you wish. The next one is yellow. It's a cadmium yellow. Then I have a cadmium red medium. Above it, I have an azo yellow, which is a lot brighter, so it could be like a lemon yellow. I won't be using that initially. I'm going to stick to my basics here around the bottom, but these will be added in later, perhaps for some extra details for those of you who have extra paints. This is alizarin red up here, alizarin crimson. Over here we have ultramarine blue, sap green, and black. Whatever yellow, red, blue, green, white, and black you have will work just fine. And I will be slowly showing you what colors to mix so that we get other colors with it. Purples, greens. We won't be using the green initially, we'll be making our own. This will be just added afterwards for a little bit more punch. If you have green, great. If you don't, I will show you how to mix it. This little mess here I have going on, this is Liquin Original. This is for my oil paints. If you're using acrylics, just water is fine. Obviously with watercolor, just water is fine. With acrylics, you can use what's called a retarder. It slows down the drying process of your acrylic paint, which helps you to blend it more. Otherwise, if you're used to using oils, you can use whatever mediums you want to mix. I use Liquin. It makes my oils dry a little bit faster, and you're gonna see that it's mixed with an oil, and I like using walnut oil. So any type you want to use is fine. Just be sure if you use the oils and you use rags to dry anything, that you soak the rags in water and then dispose of them correctly. I usually don't use rags because I don't want to deal with that, but I do have an empty paint can at home full of water, and that's whenever I use rags, that's actually what I put in there. Okay, I've got my jar of paintbrushes. If you're using acrylics, you would want to keep the paint in the water, the paintbrushes in the water, so that they don't dry out. For oils, I use the jar the other way, and it just keeps my paintbrushes all together, and I kind of try to keep one brush for each color. If I'm making a mess, I'll get a paper towel and wipe off my brush and clean it that way. But that's how we're going to start. So we'll start with some mixing of paints to get our colors that we need for this painting. All right. First doing is mixing up my medium. And I don't want to use too much of this medium when I blend my oil paints, but I like to use enough that it just helps my oil paints glide across my surface, whether it's canvas, canvas board, canvas paper. Sometimes people use masonite turned upside down, like the gritty part of the masonite, and they'll prime it first, what they call gesso. So, you know, there's a lot of surfaces we can paint on. I even use paper. The only thing with paper is it won't have the archival longevity of a primed canvas or canvas board. Okay, so I'm gonna start with making a light blue. We're gonna start with our sky once we start painting, but I'm gonna grab a nice amount of white. I'll make a couple of blues so we're ready when we start to paint. A little bit. A lot of people will mix their paints with a palette knife, and it's actually a really good idea. I've kind of gotten into the habit of mixing it with my brush. Sometimes I use a palette knife. I'm a little bit messy, I guess. And so I tend to just use my brush. But yeah, so we've got kind of, actually that turned into a medium blue. So we're gonna take a little bit more white, and a little bit of that medium blue. I'm gonna mix a lighter blue to the side. It's almost a white blue, that's gonna be our horizon. The lighter it is, the further away it looks. So we're gonna have a really almost a white blue, a little bit darker, and then we're gonna do a purpley blue. So just scooch that over so I still have lots of that. We may have to mix as we go, but we'll start with this and at least you'll understand how to mix the colors. Again, I'm pre-recording this and you will be able to ask me questions. So if if you're watching this on Monday, the 30th, live, it'll be a live watch party. That means you'll be able to be asking me questions right now. If you're confused, you don't quite understand what I'm doing, go ahead and type in a question. I'm trying to make this video go fairly slow so that you have time to stop, to go type some questions, and I can help you along. I'm going to be available after as well to answer questions, and yeah, go from there. This is my first time doing this type of watch party and video, so I think as I go along and do a few of these, I'm going to have better techniques. So what we made right there was a purple, and I mixed alizarin red with my blue, and I was actually going to use my regular red, so I'm going to do that again. That's a really nice purple with the alizarin crimson, but I'm just going to take the regular red because I think probably most of you would just have a regular red. I'm going to mix that over here. Got a little bit of ahead of myself there. So red, a little bit of your blue, and it, you know, depending on what red and blue you have, you're going to come up with a lot different purples. Some will have pinkier purples, some will have darker purples. Depending on what type of blue you have and what type of red you have, the purple will come out quite different, and that's okay. As I said in the beginning, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be relaxing. There's no outcome. This is all about the process, and you know, as you go, if you want to try this again with different colors that you maybe or have time to order, or you know, just whatever colors you have on hand, you might try different reds and blues and see what you come up with. That's kind of the beauty of this. And as far as I know, I can leave this up, this video, so you can come back, and if you want to try it again with, you know, different colors, or you know, once you get comfortable, you want to try it again, or have someone come over. Well, if you can, eventually, have people come over. Do it with your kids, with your family, whoever you're social isolating with, then you can do that. So you can see there, it's quite a different purple I'm getting. This one's a little bit, almost like a gray purple. This one's a brighter purple, a little pinkier. Add a little more red down at this end, and a little bit of white. So it lightens it up. That comes out a little different. I'm going to put a little bit more blue up at this end and a little bit more white. We get all kinds of different colors, which is really what we want to see when we're doing a sky. And we can pull more whites into that too when we're blending. And this is why I love oils. They don't dry on the canvas right away, so you can go in and blend them. And if you have the retarder for the acrylics, it slows down the drying process of the paint. Okay, and that will help you be able to blend as well. And I use a little bit of that, a little bit, just blends a little bit easier. You can kind of see how it even moves across my palette paper a little bit better. One thing I forgot to mention was a palette, and I will have that listed. I will have had that listed in my supplies, but I often just use wax paper. When it's finished, I can simply crumple it up and throw it away. Some people use glass, other people use palette pads you can get at the craft stores, a piece of plastic, a paper plate, anything really. But I love the wax paper because it doesn't let it bleed through. It gives me a good working surface. When I'm done, I'll take whatever's left over of my paints and put them onto another piece, so I'm hardly throwing any out. Yeah, I've just found this like a way that I like, and it's cheap. It's a lot cheaper than the palette pads you get at an art store. Okay, so there's our blues and purples. The other color we had to mix was green. So I have a green here. If you have green, that's great. You can use that. But just for fun, let's mix a green. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my yellow over onto the side of my paper. I'm gonna take a little bit of my blue, and like I said, I'm kind of a messy artist, and I don't do everything completely as clean as I probably should. Oh, that turns out to a really nice green. Look at that. That's really cool. Okay, that'll be great. So these two colors, I was mixing a green the other day, and the yellow I had used just didn't quite, whoops, now I'm actually using green. Let me start that and get the blue. Mix that together. Yep, blue, yellow, and there we have a green. Okay, and you can see if you use more yellow, you're gonna get a lighter green. If you use more blue, you're gonna get a darker green. Add a bit of white to those. You're gonna get lighter yet. You can just keep playing with these mixtures and get all kinds of colors just from these basic ones that we're doing, even darker. Another thing you may want to do, because these are quite bright actually, is red is the opposite of green on the color wheel. You add a little bit of red, and very little, because red, especially if you have oils, is such a powerful color, such a powerful pigment. And look how that kind of browns it up a bit, which is good if we're doing grass. We don't want it too green. We don't really want it to look like a coloring book or a children's book. We want it to look a little bit more natural, so a little bit of red in there. Yeah, you get different colors there that way. And in the end, when I'm doing my painting, I will probably take a really bright yellow and add some real bright pops. So if you have that, you can do that as well. If you don't, that's okay. Just get your white and make it lighter, and your regular yellow. And you're gonna get something that pops pretty good as well. You just keep playing with that. All right, so we have our greens for the grass and our yellows. If your yellow's too bright, you mix a little bit of purple with that. That's the opposite, that tones that down as well. You start getting all kinds of really interesting color combinations. It's amazing what the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and a bit of white can do. Now I mentioned black. Black is really awesome too, although you know what, honestly, I don't use black very often in my paintings. I was taught that I should make my own black. Now everybody's gonna have a different opinion. There's no right or wrong way to paint. That's just kind of what I do. But if you have a black and you want to darken something, go ahead and do that. But you can also do it with adding red to darken the green, purple to darken your yellow. Let me think, what would you use to darken your blue? A little bit of an orange, so you could mix those two and add it to your blue, and that would mix things up again. Okay, enough about painting, mixing paints, I mean. Let's get started with drawing our canvas and putting some of this fun color onto the actual canvas.